All right, I've been linked this several times. Let's look at this thing. Are coding assistants really saving developers time? Studies suggest these tools don't increase coding speed, which would be kind of interesting. And I wonder if they mean by coding speed as in just literally time on the keyboard, as in the autocomplete isn't that great at autocompleting, or B, is it overall time in a developer's life? Because obviously coding is not the only activity. There's debugging, there's reading, there's actually producing, there's passing tests, there's realizing your tests are complete and utter garbage and therefore you have to rewrite new tests, that kind of stuff. Anyways, so let's go at this. A study claims that AI coding tools improve developer productivity, revealing that using GitHub Copilot led to a 41% increase in bugs, raising concerns about code quality. 41% would be a little high. Raising concerns about code quality. While both control and test groups experienced reduced working hours, developers using GitHub Copilot saw no relief from burnout, highlighting the tool's limited effectiveness in reducing work-related stress. I'm also curious about this one. How are they measuring burnout? Also, I love that they have a control and test groups. Okay, where we might actually have a partially, at least a maybe test that's somewhat correctly done. There's so many people that just make these assertions and they just like look at a group of people. I cannot tell you, oh my goodness. This is like one of my least favorite things in the LLM space right now, which is that people release these studies, and these studies are just asking, like 500 developers and CTOs, right? It's always that. It's always like, we're asking 500 people, which are developers, managers, and C-suites and VPs, and you're just like, why are you asking CTOs how a developer feels about Copilot? That's inherently bad. And then on top of that, not only that, it's just like a purely ask them questions. Like, how do you feel about Copilot? You could ask a gambler who has lost all of their money repetitively how they feel about their next bet. And guess what? It's confident. Feelings don't matter when it comes to objective measurements. It's wild that people think it does. No, stop doing studies in which you rely on somebody's feelings. Oh my gosh. Okay, like it's totally okay to kind of get a sentiment. You can say sentiment says people feel that they're more productive. Okay, that is a real data point. I get that. I agree with you. Real data point says that people feel a certain way. That, in fact, does not matter if objective reality says different. And I don't care. Some people are going to be like, well, actually, it does matter because if objective reality says one thing, but people feel a different way, shouldn't we listen to how people feel? No, we shouldn't. No. I don't care if you feel better. If your life is worse, then you should go, wait a second, I should correct this and actually be better and feel better. Oh, my goodness. Anyways, let's find out. Sorry, I got a little spicy there. My bad. I'm getting a little excited. Moreover, developers are spending more time reviewing AI-generated code, which may negate any potential time savings. Also, how many, like literally type 1 in chat if you like reviewing code. Anyone type 1 in chat if you love reviewing code. There's definitely some ones. All right, how about this one? 69 in chat if you don't like reviewing code. 69 in chat if you don't like reviewing code. Yeah, see, notice that one just has a lot more momentum than the other. You'll notice there's a certain magnitude associated with one versus the other. AI uses me to write code. It's true. AI uses you. AI coding tools appear to have minimal impact on developer productivity. The debate within the developer community continues, with differing opinions on the actual productivity benefits of AI coding assistance. This underscores the need for a careful evaluation of the real-world impact. While some companies report significant productivity gains from AI tools, others find that they introduce errors and complicate the debugging process. Junior developers, in particular, often struggle to match the efficiency of senior developers, even with the assistance from AI tools. Wow. I am shocked that this requires a study to understand this. Guy who's done less than the other person by decades doesn't move as fast even when someone tells you that you're correct and you don't have to worry about it. Shocking discovery, right, people? Absolute bombshell just happened right there. I realized I don't even have a chat up. My bad, chat. Here, get on the screen. Everybody say hello. Everybody say hello and hi, YouTube. And please like and subscribe. I learned something, by the way. People don't like and subscribe often because they actually use playlists. Did you know that? I don't watch the YouTubes very often, right? I just listen to music. That's all I do on the YouTubes, and so I didn't know that. Anyways, here we go. Copilot Access provided no significant change in efficiency in efficiency metrics. Okay, when comparing PR cycle time, throughput, and complexity along with PRs with tests, Copilot neither helped nor hurt the developers in the same, and also did not increase coding speed. While some of these while some of these metrics were statistically significant, the actual change was inconsequential to engineering outcomes. E.g., cycle times decreased by 1.7 minutes. Yeah, I don't think that really matters when you have a 2-week cycle time, huh? All right, interesting. All right. Developers with Copilot access saw a significantly higher bug rate, while their issue throughput remained consistent. This suggests that Copilot access may impact code quality. The fact that PR throughput was unchanged further supports this possibility. I think this really says two things. This should be the most obvious and glaring thing right here, which is if PR throughput did not change and bug rate went up, it says two potential things. One, trust in a source often overrides thinking. I think we can all agree to this. If a doctor comes up to you and says, hey, you have this wrong with you, you need to do this, you will just go, okay. Like, often no one will think about it. It's not that it's good or bad. It's just that we tend to trust people that are experts in things, right? If you go up to somebody who you really respect in programming and you ask them a question kind of outside of their really wheelhouse about programming, they probably will give you an answer, and you'll probably just believe them because that's what you do. It's, this is why it's, appeal to authority is such a powerful thing. So your own personal reviewing probably doesn't do well. And second thing that I says about this is that the looks good to me PR is pretty high. I wonder something. I wonder if there's been an increase in looks good to me PR reviews because we spend more time in significantly more time now reviewing code from Copilot that we can no longer give as objectively good reviews because we've already been doing it a lot. Is there review fatigue? I wonder if there is review fatigue. Maybe. Copilot was not effective in mitigating the risk of burnout. Sustained always-on pre- and post-Copilot access. Uplevel sustained always-on metric, extending work time outside of standard hours and leading indicator of burnout, decreases for both groups, but it decreases 17% for those with Copilot access and almost 28% for those without. Okay, so this is how it's saying that burnout is happening, is work outside of work hours. I guess it just depends on what you mean by work. I do not believe working on a side project leads to burnout in the same way that working on work does. Now, if it's a side project that's, say, open source, and you have now committed yourself to all these open source issues, and you're constantly doing stuff that other people are telling you to do, I bet you it does lead to burnout. I actually fully agree. Do people just close their eyes and press tab? No, it's the hard part is that when you're trying to move fast and you have an idea in your head, you tend to look at something that looks 98% correct, and you'll go, oh, this is correct. It's not that you're trying to turn off your brain. You just simply look at something that looks correct, and you move on. And that's because the idea in your head and what Copilot produced is near identical. It's that near identical that's the problem. Why do founders get burnout? Because founding a company, the problem is building what you really enjoy and rediscovering that spark for engineering is not the same as founding a company. Founding a company has a lot to do with schmoozing VCs, absolutely working insane hours to try to deliver on something, doing all the things that no longer become fun, just like open source. Like open source software in its ideal state sounds kind of neat. You produce something and a bunch of people like it, but that's not the reality. Open source software often is you produce something that people like, and now people are demanding you make all these changes, and they want you to do a bunch of stuff. And so you don't feel that like awe and amazement at what has been built and the people that are using it and this whole community that's been built. But instead, you just feel the crushing requests and demands and accusations resting on you. It's very, very different. Coding tools have been an obvious early application in the rise of generative AI. But a recent study by analytics firm Uplevel. Uplevel, by the way, a lot of their studies I don't trust, so this makes me less trustworthy of this study overall because I noticed that they mentioned the word Uplevel multiple times. Uplevel tends to always be selling you consulting as a means of creating a study. They're creating studies as a means to sell you consulting. What's up, Level? Shut up. suggests that the anticipated productivity gains may be overstated if they exist at all. Uplevel, which analyzes coding and collaboration data, reports that the use of GitHub Copilot resulted in a 41% increase in bugs. This suggests that Copilot may be negatively impacting code quality. Engineering leaders might need to investigate pull requests with bugs and implement safeguards for responsible use of generative AI, says the report. Can generative AI improve developer productivity? Not only that, first off, I'm not even sure how you would set up safeguards. Okay, how do you even know? But there is a study that there's a study that links up to this, which is lines changed or lines modified on GitHub. And effectively what it was, I'll try to restate it as the best I can, which is from 2000 and something up to 2020, lines modified in open source projects on GitHub were approximately once every 6 months. From 2020 to 2024, lines modified went down to, I believe, about 6 weeks. I could be wrong, meaning that code changed significantly more than they did prior. Now, you could draw a bunch of different conclusions from this, but I think a potential conclusion is that when you have the power to rapidly produce code, it's easier to delete and one shot again with your own mentality than it is to learn, understand, and make the changes that are well for the system. I don't know how thorough the study is. I don't know how many open source repositories. Is it all open source repositories? Well, then you could argue that from 2020 to 2024, there's a huge influx of new people, and they're all creating Git because Git is now the ultimate standard suggested everywhere. So therefore, a bunch of people who don't know what they're doing are all committing code, and therefore it looks like the average change or the median change has greatly reduced. But in reality, longer sustained open source projects don't have the same change, right? There's a lot of problems there. There's a lot of problems that one could draw from it. The study measured pull request cycle time, the duration it takes to merge code into a repository, the PR throughput, the number of merged requests, if found no significant improvements in those metrics for developers using Copilot. These findings were part of Uplevel's research conducted to answer 3 key questions. Does access to GitHub Copilot help developers code faster? Does GitHub Copilot help developers produce better quality code? Does GitHub Copilot mitigate developer burnout? Uplevel analyzed the data from its customers, comparing the output of around 800 developers using GitHub Copilot over 3 months period to their performance during the 3 months prior to the adoption. The firm's other 2 findings were as follows. No significant change in efficiency measures. Okay, interesting. At least, I mean, they're testing the same person 3 months on, 3 months off. I think you'd have to go off again and then on again maybe. And you might be, I wonder if you could actually see like that thing go up and down, right? I'm curious about that. When comparing cycle times, throughput, and the complexity of pull requests with and without tests, GitHub Copilot neither helped nor hindered the developers in the sample, nor did it improve coding speed. While some of these measures were statistically significant, the change had no meaningful impact on technical outcomes. For instance, cycle time decreased by just 1.7 minutes. I wish they kind of explained what does cycle time mean? Like what was the median cycle time? What was the 90% cycle time? What was the 10% cycle time? I kind of feel like it's missing a little bit of the context. Like, I assume the cycle time was like a week, but what is 1.7 minutes, right? We have no idea. Mitigation of burnout risk. Uplevel's sustained always-on metric, which tracks extended work outside of regular hours and a leading indicator of burnout, decreases in both groups. How did it decrease in both groups? I'm curious about that. However, it dropped by 17% for developers using GitHub Copilot and nearly 28% for those not using the tool. Yeah, this one seems the most confusing. I don't really understand this one. And yeah, I just don't get this. I just don't. A study published by GitHub came to a different conclusions. Yeah, so this is true. Study published by GitHub came to a different conclusion. Shocking. The person selling the tool came to a different conclusion. How would that ever happen? Uplevel study was motivated by curiosity about claims that AI coding assistants would become ubiquitous, said Matt Hoffman, the product manager and data analyst at Uplevel. In contrast, GitHub study published in August 2024 found that 97% of software engineers, developers, and programmers reported using AI coding assistants. Other studies have yielded similar findings. Well, using and the outcomes are obviously 2 different things. Does that really? I had burnout so bad I quit the job. Much happier now. Yeah, I quit. I had some pretty tough times at one point. It can be very frustrating. What is this one? Respondents believe AI increases the quality of their code, especially in the US and India. Oh, interesting. I wonder why US and India versus Germany and Brazil, not nearly as much. I wonder what happened. Germans are more better. Wow, look at the US. I wonder what that says about the US. 90% of people feel like AI assistants improve their quality. Huh. Americans and Indians code at the same quality level? Maybe that's the real metric we're taking out here. I'm not really sure. In its study, GitHub reports that 97% of respondents have used AI coding tools at work at some point and finding consistent across all 4 countries surveyed. However, a smaller percentage said their company actively encourages or allows the use of AI tools, with this varying by region. Key findings from surveys include the wave of generative AI in software development continues to grow. The survey expanded 2,000 respondents, with nearly all, 97%, having used the tools at some point, whether on or off the job, although not all the companies have officially endorsed their usage. Again, is this shocking at all that 97% of developers have tried to use a coding AI, a generative AI assistant for coding? This is kind of like such a stupid metric to state. It's like, of course, it's exceptionally novel and it's a whole new world and it's fun to see it do something. And more shocking that 3% have not. Yeah, just try it out. Like, why would you not minimally try it out? Have you tried novel new thing? Yeah. Have you tried this thing that's completely wild and way different than anything that's come before it? Tried it actively using it. Yeah, well, that's why it says having used the tools at some point. Like 97% have used the tools at some point. So it's like, this is just, I've tried it. Software development teams are recognizing more benefits to AI coding tools than previously acknowledged. These include creating more secure software. Now, that has to be pure bullshit. There's not a universe that exists that I believe a generative AI produces more secure coding. There is no way. Improving code quality, generating better test cases, and faster adoption of new programming languages. This last one, I think I fully believe, because it's easier to lightly understand a programming language and have something assist you and fill it in than it is to deeply understand a language and produce it yourself. Right? I think that's most certainly true. Ultimately, this has the result in time savings that developers are dedicated to more strategic tasks. Respondents to our survey said AI helps them work more productively, using the time saved to redesign systems, collaborate more, and better meet our customers' needs. AI doesn't replace human jobs. It frees up time for human creativity. Now let's dive into the research, said Kyle Daigle, GitHub's chief operating officer, in a blog post. Again, it's so hard to believe. I find this to be so hard to believe. Anybody that is selling the thing to be able to communicate clearly about it, right? I just don't believe Kyle Daigle, right? Like, just fundamentally, I just don't believe what he has to say. Because it is literally his job to get people to use it. Oh, look, here's the thing. So I've read this. However, the Uplevel study challenges this view. While GitHub's productivity metrics are strong, Uplevel found that developers are spending more time reviewing AI-generated code, which may offset any time savings. Similarly, earlier this year, GitClear reported that while AI assistants can aid in programming, they don't always improve code quality and can introduce more bugs. See, look at this. Look at the so more code being generated, which is fine. More lines being deleted. More lines being updated. Less lines being moved. More lines being copied and pasted, find and replaced. But I mean, the hard part is like, lines changed. That's a crazy number, right? Churn's way up. I'd have to understand more of these things. I can't remember the exact things. Let's see what it defines as churn. GitClear researchers found that AI tools like GitHub Copilot primarily offer suggestions for adding new code without recommending updates or code removal. This often leads to redundant code. Additionally, they observe a sharp increase in code churn, meaning code that is being modified frequently, typically a negative sign for code quality. Okay, so code churn, I forget exactly how they measure it, but it had something to do with like multiple edits to the same line over the course of some period of time. I wonder if you took these metrics, I wonder if this number is proportional to all these numbers. Is churn actually going up, or is this not? I don't really want... I wish they had tabulated data, because then I could just copy and paste. I don't want to have to go through this and do this. Can I go like this? Copy image, chat GPT. Can you turn this image into a CSV? Question mark. How much of this is just a function of more code generated? That's why I want to get the CSV. It's kind of wild that it remained fairly static through these years and has jumped up dramatically in the last two. Do churn rates mean more unstable code? Yes, that's effective. So churn rate, if I remember correctly, churn rate means that a piece of code has been changed multiple times over some smaller period of time. So it's not just lines modified, but lines modified in a repetitive nature, suggesting that there is bugs. Do we have numbers I don't think they do that. I don't think we have those numbers. But there you go. Okay, interesting. Now try to fit it to NVIDIA stock graph. Ooh, it could work. We could easily fit that to NVIDIA stock graph with a logarithmic growth on NVIDIA. Yeah, it could be good. Isn't that iterative change based on LLM improvements? I think it'd be the opposite, right? Iterative change based on LLM improvements, wouldn't that go down because the LLM improvements are getting better? This is an open source too. So this is suggesting that the same lines changed. I don't know what you can draw from this other than there are more changes. I think that's the hard part. What can you actually draw from this? I don't know. I want to draw the fact that it's a negative sign. Maybe it is. Each new iteration of AI-generated code becomes less consistent as different parts are developed using varying prompts. As a result, the code becomes increasingly difficult to understand and debug, making troubleshooting so resource-intensive that it's sometimes easier to rewrite the code from scratch. Fair, said one user, noting that AI has yet to improve productivity. A cautious strategy for adopting AI coding assistance. The introduction of AI tools like GitHub Copilot raises several important questions. Will AI help developers work faster? Can it improve code quality and prevent burnout? Not yet for this population. However, innovation is moving quickly, and GitHub has found that Copilot improves developer satisfaction. Such a weird thing again. It's such a weird thing. Like, is it true? Is having more bugs? I just don't understand the takeaway from these studies. Right? So if you're producing 41% more bugs, is the satisfaction because you just don't have to turn on your brain as much? You just have to think in kind of like higher level or higher order outcomes, and that just makes you feel nice? Because I don't understand how that would be good. Like if 41% increase is like the average experience or even the median experience as a developer, I don't see how that would make my satisfaction go up. Maybe it's the fact that writing code at a really fast rate. Okay, I might have a hot take here. Are you ready for this? I really like coding. I do. I really like coding. I'm really fast at coding. I can think a lot and produce a lot of code, and a decent amount of it is pretty good. I've been able to move through a code base and program at an exceptionally fast level due to years of training and intentional practice. You guys aren't following me yet. Just shut up, chat. Shut up. You're so stupid, chat. You're just so dumb. Shut up. Is using Copilot kind of like a shortcut to that same experience? As if you could put your hands on a guitar and start playing better just because you can. And so therefore, even though you're playing perhaps stuff that isn't technically good, it just feels significantly easier. Does it produce more satisfaction? In other words, the satisfaction at being excellent at something. You know, it took me 20 years to become okay at programming, to where I can solve a decent amount of problems in the tool space with decent amount of language. Yeah, there you go. Copilot is like Guitar Hero. There you go. Maybe that's a better way of putting it. It converts playing guitar into Guitar Hero. Oh, that's actually such a humble fella. Thank you. I'm not being humble. I'm trying to be as accurate as I can. I understand I'm better at programming than a good portion of people. And I should be, because I've been doing it for 20 years. Like real talk, if I wasn't good at programming after 20 years, like that's crazy. Right? Like that has to be pretty wild. I think we would all be pretty upset if you could do something for 20 years and actually not be better. I think we can, oh yes, you can always find people who are like that, but that says, I mean, to me, that feels like a disaster. You should see me golf. You should see me golf. I've gotten a lot better over the last 2 years. I've only been golfing for 2 years, and I get to do it very rarely, but I love the experience of playing. I love the experience of trying to get better at something. I'm also a person who if you gave me an afternoon to go play golf and said, hey, before you're allowed to play anything, you have to spend 1 hour at the chipping area and chip into the same hole, would you still go golfing? For me, that's like fun because I know I'm going to get that much better. And so I actually enjoy the process of doing the same thing over and over again to get better. I work with people who have been in the position for 20 plus years, and I can confirm that some of these people do not get better. Yeah, that's terrifying. What if someone starts with LLMs and never tries to get better at coding? Well, that's the nice part is they don't, in some sense, you don't have to get any better, right? You've kind of achieved this level of pretty good because Copilot allows you to produce a lot of code. And I've seen people type and they feel like they're confused at stuff. Like I could imagine, like honestly, if I could teleport back to me being in school 20 years ago and having to do a bunch of these data structure assignments and all this other kind of stuff that you have to do in college, but I also had Copilot, I honestly don't know where I would have ended. Because I think I personally would have relied entirely too much on the LLMs to actually become good at it. I feel like I would leave college with all the right words in my head, with all the foundation and everything, but not the actual ability to write code. One of the most important lessons I was taught when I was going to university by my first teacher was errors are good. Learn to read errors. Because if you get good at learning how to read errors, coding will get significantly easier. And I remember taking that idea and just running with it, going, okay, errors are good. Let me take errors and try to understand what's happening better. And the reason why I think I wouldn't get any better is because how easy is it to take an error and just paste it into an LLM and it spits out to you all sorts of useful information. You no longer know how to read an error, but you do know how to get an answer out of an error. Arguably, the outcome is good, but the process, is it good? And so, yeah, it's interesting. I'd have to think more about that. I guess this really comes down to, is the process meaningless and the outcome the only value that you should measure? Or is the process also good? Let's see. Uplevel responded in its report. Engineering leaders may want to consider a cautious approach to adopting Copilot in preparation for further advancements in the tool. Set specific goals. Define clear outcomes for integrating GitHub Copilot into your team's workflow. What specific improvements are you hoping to achieve? Offer initial training to explain when and where GitHub Copilot should and shouldn't be used, and establish safeguards to ensure proper implementation. I mean, these are all very, very difficult. A lot of this is just going to be testing in production, is my assumption. Continued experimenting with generative AI. Identify specific use cases where Copilot excels and refine prompts that yield the best results. Share successful strategies across the organization to replicate success. Monitor technical efficiency metrics. Conduct A/B tests to gather objective quantitative data on whether AI is truly improving developer productivity and helping achieve your operational goals. It's really hard unless if you have a lot of engineers. Most companies are not 800. By the way, this was clearly written by an LLM, but most companies are not hundreds of engineers. Here's a very interesting test you can do on yourself to see how much you've been affected by the LLMs. What I want you to start doing is I want you to create a new project and go function, main. And then I want you to parse some flags, kind of do something. Maybe you're going to just cat a file. Literally, it could just be called cat, and it just cats a file. And then I want you to write an if statement and just wait. You won't mean to wait. You will just wait because you've been so thoroughly changed. Your behavior has been so thoroughly changed that you've adopted the GitHub Copilot pause is what it's being called. You actually stop all of your thinking and you wait for something to tell you what to think. The Copilot pause is a real deal. Just try it out. How do you read a file and go again? I'm just going to wait. And you just sit there. Just a fun thing to think about. The name is, to be completely fair, I did get Copilot when it first came out. And I used it for a year. Like, I really enjoyed using Copilot. So I'm not here to just rag on it. But after using it for a year, I realized these weird cracks that developed in me. And I actually have been intentionally not using it due to that. And I have not used Avante, though I do want to use Avante. Again,